Shalom. We're going to start today's Daf Yomi, which is Samaches of Bava Kamma, 68b, 68 of Bava Kamma. We're going to start it on the bottom of 67b. It's dedicated for Shemira for all of Am Yisrael. Chayalim should be safe. Hostages should be returned. So we're going to start on the bottom of 67b, studying Zefer Nishmas, David ben Yair V'Sara. Amarav, Rav taught, it said in the Mishnah, if somebody steals after the theft, he does not pay the double penalty. Meaning, if somebody stole it and somebody stole from the Ganav, the one who stole from the robber does not pay the double penalty. So says Rav, when did we learn this? Only prior to the Yerush, meaning to say that if the thief stole it before the person who he stole it from, the second thief stole it before the first person gave the Pope, then he does not pay the double payment. But if the first thief, if the person from whom it was stolen had given a Pope, then Kano Ganav Rishon, the first thief, Ganav Sheni, Mishan, Teshume Kefal, Ganav Rishon. The first person from whom it was stolen gave a Pope, so then the thief has acquired it, and then the second thief now has to pay the first thief the double payment because he stole from him. Amar Rav Sheshes said, Amina, I say, Kinayim v'shachet Rav Amar La'ashmaita. He says, I say that when Rav taught this, that if it's before Yehush, before he gave a Pope, that's when the second thief doesn't pay kefil. But if it's after Yehush, he pays the kefil. I say that Rav said this when he was sleeping. Kinayim v'shachet. The Tanya, because we learned Amar Rabbi Akiva, why do we say that if somebody ordered or sold an animal, he pays 4 or 5 times the amount? Nation is shtarish b'chait, because he is rooted in the sin, meaning to say the sin has become chazak within him. It has become strong with him because he acquired it, and therefore his actions have affected and are effective. They're efficacious. But so we see from here, Amos, when do we say that Nishtarish B'chet takes effect? If it's before the original person gave a Pope, is it really the case that the theft takes effect? The thief hasn't given a Pope. So it must be on top of someone else. It must be la'achar yesh. It must be after the thief gave a Pope. And if you want to say that when the thief himself gives up hope, when the original owner gives up hope, then the thief has acquired it. Why, if he then sells it, does he have to pay 4 or 5 times the amount? He's slaughtering and he's selling his own thing. So we see from here that giving up hope itself is not enough for the person to acquire it. So the Gemara says, no, we say, it's not because he was rooted in the sin. That what's the reason why he pays 4 or 5 times the amount? Not because he's actually acquired it, but rather because because he's strengthened the chait. He's done the sin multiple times. And because he didn't just steal, he also slaughtered it and sold it. He was shana b'chait. So the Gemara is trying to prove whether or not the thief to acquire. It says in the price of it, a thief has to pay 4 or 5 times the amount. It will never return to its original owner. Also, the sale will never return to its original owner. Now, when is this the case? Amos. Before the original never gave a pope. So it must be la'achar kanya. And if you're going to say if after he gives a pope and down the hay, then why does he pay 4 or 5 times the worst law? So the Gemara says no. Could Amar Rav Nachman? No, it's not excluding. Pope. It's only sold it for 30 days. That's where the law of 4 or 5 times the amount doesn't take effect. So the Gemara again challenges Rav, who says that if you gave a pope by itself, that's enough for the thief to acquire it. Meisvei, you have a brisa, ganavu va'acharu ganavo. If a person stole it, and then another person came along and stole it from that person, Harisha Mishalim Tashumi Kefal. The first person pays double. Harisha Mishalim Tashumi Kefal. The first person pays double. And the second person only pays the principal. Now we have a next case. If he stole it and then sold it, and from him, on the second person pays double. Third case, he stole it and slaughtered it. The next person comes and steals it from him. The first person pays 4 or 5 times the amount. And the second person does not pay double. He only pays the principal. So the Gemara says, let's analyze these cases. The Brisa states, in the middle case, or that let's say he stole it and then he sold it, and then somebody came and steals it from him. The first person has to pay 4 or 5 times. The second person pays double. Now, Amos, when is he taking it? If it's before Yeush, if the guy who was stolen from never gave a pope, why the second person paid double? Shina Rishus below Yeush, if he just changed his possession, the guy hasn't given a pope. Does anybody say that he's acquired it? It must be that the original owner had given a pope. And if he's acquired it through Yeush, why does he pay 4 or 5 times the amount? And he's really just selling his own thing. And so that proves that Yeush by itself does not affect an acquisition. And furthermore, the Katani Reisha, it says in the first clause, if the guy steals and the second person comes along and steals from him, only pays the principal. The first person double. You see from here, it's difficulty for us, but it's proof from our price so that you really think that this is logical. We have to explain the price. So we're explaining the price. So it must be because it says still that be? And if that's the case, why does he only pay the principal to the guy who slaughtered it? He's acquired it through changing the action. So it must be that we're talking about Kulam Lifnei Yeush. The whole thing is talking about before Yeush. Beipel Seifel Mitziasu Seifel. We have to switch around the middle clause and the final clause. The Eimachi, and read it like this: Ganavu Machar. That in the middle clause it says he stole it and sold it. Ubachar v'ganvo, and somebody else comes along and steals it from him. Arisha Misham Tashuni Arba B'Chamisha. The first person pays 4 or 5 times the amount. And the second guy only pays principal. The Shinoi Rishus below Yeush Lokani, because changing possession without Yeush does not affect the acquisition. But in the last case, if he slaughtered and sold it and somebody steals it from the second guy, Harisha Misham Teshulme Arba B'Chamishi V'Hasheni Mishalim Teshulme Kefel. But there, the first person pays 4 or 5 times the amount, and the second guy pays double. Why? The Kanya B'Shinoi Ma'isa, because he's the first guy. The first thief has acquired it by changing through a change in the action, through an action. Our Papa gives a different answer. No, we could say that the third case, you don't have to reverse it. The third case is referring to the position of Beit Shammai who said Shino Bim Kamo made, that even though you've done a change in the action, you've done an act of changing it, that's still going to say the same concept that it has not changed ownership, even though you've done an action to it. Gemara says, well, if that's the case, Kashya Reisha Mitziasa, then the first clause is contradicting the second clause, if that's your argument. So therefore, meaning to say that this is how would Rav explain that? So therefore, so Rav. So I'm Rav Zvid. Well, I'm cool of Yehush. So therefore, Rav Zvid says the whole case is taking place before Yehush, that you haven't given up hope. And Bava Kamma and Rav says that everybody obviously says before Yehush, then it doesn't affect acquisition. And here, what are we talking about? But if it was a person purchased it, then the original owner would give up hope. But if it was stolen, he wouldn't. And then there's just Yehush. Then there is Yehush because it was a thief. And there, Rav would say it changes there's a kinyan. And don't say that we require Yehush and change in possession. Even if there's just Yehush, he's acquired it. By a thief. We never find a circumstance where they're both of them pay. Ganav Rishon and Ganav Sheni El Bachid. That's the only case where they both pay Kefil, is under this case where he has the Yehush. That's how Rav would explain it. Now the Gemara says, "In Mar HaMocher Lefnei Yehush." Let's say somebody steals a sheep or an ox and he sells it before Yehush. So Rav Nachman Amar Chayev and Rav Sheshes Amar Potter. Rav Nachman says that he is liable, and Rav Sheshes says he's Potter for the 4 or 5 times the amount. Rav Nachman says he has to pay, and Rav Sheshes says he doesn't. In the case where he sold it before Yehush, Rav Nachman says he's Chayev. Why? Umacharo. It says that if he sells it, he's liable. Amar Rahman Abazab, and he sold it. It doesn't matter before or after. Whereas Rav Sheshes says he's Potter. Because his only action, the only time his action is efficacious is if after Yehush. But before Yehush, where his actions don't take effect, he's not going to be responsible. Because we need the sale to be similar to the slaughter, the where his actions take effect. So it says Rav Sheshes, how do I know that which I'm saying? Now, when you're liable for 4 or 5 times the amount, that it's only after Yehush. How do I know it? Why does the Torah say if you slaughter a soul, you pay 4 or 5 times the amount? Because you were rooted in the sin. Now, Amos, when are you rooted? If it's before Yehush, are you really rooted? So must be it's after Yehush. That's where you're rooted. Amarava, no. It's not because you're nishtaris b'chet. So Rav said, no, I don't agree with you, Rav. It's not because you were nishtaris b'chet, because you were shana b'chet. It's because that you did extra on the sin. Again, the Gemara is going to try and bring a proof to Hashma to Bachol Mecharo, that if you sold it and you slaughtered it, not to Bicha Shena Chozeres, just like it's a slaughter that can't return. It's also a sale that can't be returned. When are we talking about if it's before Yehush? Why does it not return? It's before Yehush. It goes back to the original owner. It must be it's after he gave him hope. So we see from here, like Rav Sheshes says, the only time you're obligated is after Yehush. Mara says, no. Tirgum Rav Nachman, no, it's excluding a different case. The case that it's excluded is where you only sold it for 30 days. And also Rabbi Elazar says the obligation is after Yehush. You should know on top of some 68 pieces that a regular theft, there is ownership. The owner gives up hope. That's what That's what Rebbe Lazar says. Rebbe Lazar says, Teda, you should be realizing that Stam Geneva, that a regular theft, the owner has given up hope. Sharei Hamar Torah, because the Torah says, that if he slaughters it, he pays 4 or 5 times the amount. But why? Maybe he hasn't given up hope. So it must be Mishum Damrin Stam Geneva Yevish Balami. There must be that the owner gave up hope, and that's why he has to pay. The Gemara says, maybe even though he didn't give up hope. The Gemara says, no, because the sale has to be similar to the slaughter. Just like slaughtering, the action was effective. Also, sale was effective. And how is that the case? Because the owner gave up hope. If the owner didn't give up hope, how would it have made a difference? The Gemara says, maybe we heard that he gave up hope. The Gemara says, no, it has to be similar to slaughter. Just like slaughter immediately it takes effect. So to the sale immediately takes effect, even if we didn't hear that he gave up hope. So Rabbi Yochanan says the sale of a person, a kidnapped person, that should take effect. That proves that even before Yeush, the sale takes effect, and so therefore, even before Yeush, you're responsible. That there is no Yeush of the owner. The owner hasn't given up hope, and still the Torah says that you're responsible for the sale, that your action is effective. We call the Sava Rabbi Yochanan Lefnei Yeush Chayev. So we see from here that Rabbi Yochanan says that Lefnei Yeush Chayev, that Rabbi Yochanan says that before the person gave up hope, you're responsible for the sale. So now the Gemara flips it and says, oh, if that's the case, what's the story after Yeush? So Rabbi Yochanan says, Chayev. Rabbi Yochanan says you're responsible. Reish Lakish says Pater. Reish Lakish says after Yeush you'll be exempt. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayev. He says you're responsible, but both before and after Yeush. Reish Lakish says your Pater. You're only responsible before he gave it up. But after Yeush, the person acquired it. So Reish Lakish says when you're responsible for 4 or 5 times the amount, that's only before Yeush. But after Yeush, Reish Lakish is going to say that you're exempt because you're selling or slaughtering your own thing. The Gemara Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish just says that you're Pater after Yeush. Rabbi Yochanan challenges them. It says the case that it says if you stole it or you slaughtered it, you stole it and consecrated it, and then you slaughtered it, Misham Tashume Kefel. You pay double, but you don't pay 4 or 5 times the amount. Now, Amos, when did this take effect? If it was before the guy gave up hope, Mikadosh, how could it have ever been consecrated? It says in the verse, Ish Kiyaktish es Peso. Kidesh. It says in the verse, the Ishki Yakish is Beisho Kodesh, that if a person consecrates his house, it's holy. It has to be belonging to him. It must be that he's consecrating it after Yesh. And what's the reason why he doesn't pay 4 or 5 times enough? Because he consecrated it. Because when he slaughtered it, the hektish kataba. He's slaughtering something that belongs to the hektish. But if he never consecrated it, tabach. But if he never consecrated it and he slaughtered it, he pays 4 or 5 times the amount. If you're going to say that he's acquired it, why is he, if you're saying that Yehush has acquired it, why is he paying? He's slaughtering and selling his own thing. So it says, no. Now, we're talking about a case here where the original owner consecrated it while it was still in the hands of the thief. So the Gemara says, would that really take effect? Let's say somebody robbed it and the original owner didn't give up hope. Neither one can consecrate it. So one because it's not his, that's the thief, and the other one because it's not his domain. Gemara says, no, this position, Reish Lakish must hold like the Sinuin, like the modest ones, the Tanan, because we learned in the Mishnah Meiser Sheni, the modest ones used to leave aside their money. He said anything that's collected from this in the field today is going to be deconsecrated on this money. And then under those circumstances, the principal will go back to the original owner because they set aside money for it. So the Gemara says, no. We're talking about a case, where they had taken them to court. Gemara says, well, that the is a question. If when they've consecrated it, then he has to pay double. Why does he have to pay it? The Karen is in his hands. If he's consecrating it, then it's in his hands. So why does the thief have to pay double? It wasn't stolen. So the Gemara says, it's when he went when the person from whom was stolen, I brought him to court. So the Gemara says, hey, Dami, what's the case? What does the court rule? The Damrit say, and Tainlo, if they say, if the court said, go give them, why is if he consecrated, does he not pay 4 or 5 times the amount? Even if why does he not pay double if he consecrated? Even if he didn't consecrate, he shouldn't pay double. If the court says go and give it to him, and then he slaughters and tells us he's potter, my time, keeping the Pasco and they'll say once the court has ruled this way, and then he slaughters it and sells it, he's like a gazlan because he's doing it in public. He's a robber, not a thief. And then you'll pay 4 or 5 times the amount. But if on top of some of that, if the court says if the court says that you're obligated to give him in tabach machar misham teshlumi avar chamisha, but if the court said that you're obligated to give him under those circumstances, if the court says you're obligated to give it to him, but it didn't say go out and give it to him. If it just said but it didn't actually say go out and give it to him, then we're going to say under those circumstances, we're going to say that he has to pay the 4 or 5 times amount. My time, keeping the law pasta, they'll say I got the gun from. Since they haven't issued an edict, he's still a thief. So therefore, in this case, don't we say that the Karen has returned? So why is he paying double? So Mar says, well, and that's in fact what they said here. Okay, so today's Daf Yomi was studied from Yerushalayim, and it should be the merit of Zion and Torah should be a merit for all of Am Yisrael during this very, very extremely difficult time for all of Am Yisrael.